My goal today with this shoulder workout was to vary it up a bit, and that I did. So stick around and check this shoulder workout out.
Hey gang, welcome back to Mark's 60 plus fitness journey. Today is December 2nd, Thursday, December 2nd, 2021, and this year is flying by. Today is going to be a shoulder day. Now, my last video, I did a chest variation, in quotes, workout. A chest variation for me is a different workout, different exercises. Today I'm going to do the same thing, only for shoulder day. So we're going to do a shoulder variation workout. So I'm not exactly sure what that's going to be, but we'll see here in a minute. So let's go in here, do this thing, and catch back up in a few minutes, wrap it all up. Let's go do it.
Alrighty, let's get this shoulder workout going. Now, as I said, today's goal was to vary my shoulder workout up a bit, throwing a little muscle confusion, just to hit the same shoulder muscles, but from maybe some slightly different angles. Now, ordinarily, I would start with my heavy work, and that is normally dumbbell overhead presses. Today, as you see, I opted for some Smith presses, a little variation on a military press or an overhead press. I did 4 sets of 8 reps here. This is my heavy work, my heavy shoulder work, and ordinarily I'm not a big fan of the Smith machine because I think it limits range of motion, especially forward and aft. But I really, this hit my shoulders really well, and I'm a little surprised at how well it worked. It doesn't look quite like it here, but I was, in my mind, focusing on keeping my elbows in a little bit. And my grip was a little closer than I normally use on a regular barbell overhead press. The seated version takes a little bit of the core activation out, but I was able to go a little heavier with the seated Smith machine, and it worked out well. That was a nice 4 sets of 8 reps. Nice strong set for me. And here is, I opted to jump into some standing overhead presses, and in this case, the Arnold presses. Now, I'm not exactly sure I'm doing these in the proper form, but my goal was to rotate my palms in as I come down to give the shoulder a little bit more total activation. My goal was to do 12 reps on these 3 sets of 12 reps. I started a little too heavy there with the 30 pounders. So my second set, I jumped down to some 25s, and that's not a lot of weight, but this was really hard, especially right there at the top. That contraction right there is a lot of work, and I can see it was activating surely the side delts, probably the front delts to a degree, but 3 sets of Arnold presses, and these I don't normally do, as I say, so I'm constantly surprised at some of the exercises that I have done in the past that I stopped doing. When I come back to those exercises, I find them very effective, and here's a perfect example of that. I got a lot of work done here in these 3 sets, and standing like this, again, my belief is that standing will activate the core as well as, in this case, my deltoids. Good 3 sets of standing Arnold presses. So I'm getting a lot of work in, feeling good, and now I'm moving into some rear delt work. Now, I call these supported in that I'm on the bench and I'm leaning into the bench. Today, I have the bench at a slightly higher angle than I normally use when I do these rear delt dumbbell flies. This is, on this bench here, it's one notch steeper than a fully upright position on the bench. And again, this was a kind of an experiment on my part, in that I wasn't sure exactly whether it was going to hit the rear delts enough. I thought maybe this was too steep and may just focus more on my side delts. And turns out this worked out great. I felt this in my rear delts really well. The range of motion here looks kind of limited, but the contraction on this exercise for me was superb. Got a really good burn on the contraction there. Now, a little later on, I'm going to do some other rear delt work with cables that gives me a little bit more range of motion. So that range of motion, lack of range of motion there, didn't bother me too much because I did get some good activation on the rear delts. Then I moved into an exercise I do on every shoulder workout. The only difference on this particular movement here, I'm doing seated, or only two sets of seated lateral raises at 15 reps. And here, it's hard to see, but what I was doing was focusing on bringing my hands back as I go up and back, so that I'm activating my traps as well. And this was an excellent 2 sets right here. I think these 2 sets right here were probably the meat and potatoes of this workout. After I got some work done with the heavy work, the Smith overhead presses, at this point I'm a little smoked, and that 2 sets was wonderful. And I'm going into one of my favorites that I always do on shoulder day, is my shoulder flies. And again, here I'm only doing 2 sets because I've already gotten a lot of work in, a lot of volume, and I'm going to continue with a few other exercises, so I only did 2 sets here. I love these shoulder flies. They for me, are a nice heavy movement. Ordinarily, I would use 40s or 45s on these, but kind of spent already, so it was a good 2 sets. So after the dumbbell flies, the shoulder flies, I jumped into 3 sets of dumbbell shrugs. I'm using my straps today and 2 110-pound dumbbells. I think, at least for me, I get a better trap activation using dumbbells than using a barbell shrug. And it probably comes down to my hand being rotated 90 degrees when using the dumbbells. Now with the dumbbells, my palms are facing my thighs, whereas with the barbell, my palms would be facing backwards. So there's a 90-degree rotation that seems to allow me to get a better trap activation. So this was a good set of 3 sets of dumbbell shrugs. That was a lot of work right there. Nice heavy lat work. And I'm finishing up today's shoulder variation workout with some cable work. And as I mentioned earlier, when I was doing the supported rear delt flies on the bench, I felt like that range of motion was limited just a hair, so I wanted to get 2 sets of cable work in, rear delt cable work, to get a little bit more range of motion. And as you can see here, it's a big crossover, a fairly good stretch, and some good rear delt work here. After about rep 8 or 9, this got really burned really well. That was a nice 2 sets of rear delt cable work there. And I'm going to finish up my shoulder variation workout today with some cable side shoulder raises. I think this is an excellent way to finish. It's a nice finishing movement. I got 2 good sets in here to wrap it up. And I was focusing on the contraction here at the top there. Matter of fact, the whole workout was good in that sense. Had some good mind-muscle connection, had some good movements, some good contractions, and very disciplined, I think, for me anyway. But it was an excellent workout, and I thank you so very much for coming into the gym with me today and hanging out for a bit. I think you motivated me a hair. It was a good one. And please come back for more.
Alrighty, there it was. Shoulder Day, Thursday, November 2nd, 2021. Tell you, that, as I said, that was more experimental than anything else. Just want to not do the same thing over and over and over again. That's just me. And that Smith machine overhead press, while I do believe it limits range of motion, I've felt pretty good. I really like that. It's a nice change of pace. I'm going to start incorporating that a little bit more often. And it was just a different workout, different shoulder day, and I felt good. Hit the same muscles, just a little different way. It's awesome. Hope you got something out of it. It was a good workout for me. And at this point, I'm going to ask you to hit that like button for me, especially if you're this far into this. If you're this far into this, thank you very much. And as I always like to say, I don't want you to forget that I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to stop in and hang out with me. Thank you. And if you haven't already, consider clicking that subscribe button for me. That'd be awesome too. And I think that's it today for that. I'm going to do a little bit. I think today I'm going to do some sprints, get some sprints in. And you want to be careful about that, but I want to do that just for something a little bit different, some high intensity interval training. And I'll probably get a little walk in too. But that's it for that workout today, the shoulder workout. So until next time, go get 'em. Mark out.